Welcome to the Fit Dad Nation podcast, forging strong fathers and raising a stronger generation. It's time to get up or shut up with your host, Steve Roy.
Hey guys, Steve Roy, host of the Fit Dad Nation podcast here. I appreciate you listening. Welcome to the show. I'm actually recording this here on New Year's Eve, 2019. And so for this show, what I want to talk about is something that, a lot of people are working on right now, which is resolutions. Obviously, this is the big time of year for that kind of thing. And so at the very, core of all of this, and there's a million ways we can slice this up, but people want a better body, right? Because that translates to so many different areas of your life, confidence, the whole thing, right? So today I'm going to talk about 10 reasons why you don't have the body that you want and what you can do about it. And before I get into that, I want to invite any dad listening to this, if you are serious about making a change going forward in 2020, if you've been struggling for how long, it doesn't matter how long, if you don't have a plan, I want to help you. And so I've put together a program called the Fit Dad Nation Inner Circle. And in that program, we do a ton of stuff that's so helpful for dads that are struggling, trying to get fit and maintain it and be accountable. And what we're doing in this group, starting January 1st, is we're running something called the Project 45 Challenge. Now, what this is, it's a 45-day challenge designed not to just test you physically, but mentally. This is actually our first ever no-cheat challenge, meaning you're going to follow a diet without one single fuck-up in 45 days. Now, it sounds like it might be hard, and that's the idea. I want this to be hard. I want this to be tough. But think about this. When someone says, I can't do that for 45 days. I'm going to cheat maybe once. I'll have a bite of something or whatever. And my answer is, you can do anything for 45 days. This is just a very small blip on your radar, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's a very small chunk of time. But the benefit, I believe, is going to be able to carry forward, for the rest of the year and beyond because of what you've built, what you've done, what you've been able to accomplish, and because you've committed to something and stuck to it. So part of this is diet-based. Part of this will be following a very consistent workout schedule. You'll be drinking a lot of water, and you'll be doing daily mobility, which a lot of us overlook as dads. So there are going to be some kind of to-dos to check off, and we're going to be keeping track of this inside of our group. We've got a spreadsheet built, and the main thing is it's all about accountability because it's going to be tough. There are going to be times where you want to quit, but we're going to have a really great group of dads that are all fired up, ready to rock this. And I'm doing this myself. I don't do all of the challenges. We do something new every month. I don't do most of them myself. I kind of have my own program. But this one, I'm going all in on. And so, I invite you to take a look at it. You still have time. If you're listening to this on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, you do have time to check it out and to join us. It's in the Fit Dad Nation Inner Circle, which can be found at fdnic.com. And I'll drop a link in the show notes. But I'd love to have you if and only if you're absolutely 100% committed to change, because if you're not, this will not work for you. This is not a good fit. So, let's just move on from that and maybe another time. So let's get into the show. I want to talk about the reasons that you don't have the body you want. I'm just going to skip over the obvious things like you're not exercising, right? You're not eating good foods. You're being lazy. You don't give a shit, right? Those are the obvious things, and I'm not going to even talk about that. If that's you, start from square one, obviously. Start moving. Start cleaning up your diet. Start caring about your body and your health and all that stuff. So this is intended for those who have tried or are trying, yet have failed to see results or failed to see the things that you want to see from your body. So starting with the first one, and this is something that I've spoken about often, And it's because you have not made yourself a priority. And, sometimes someone will say, well, I'm a busy dad. I have 3 kids. I have a busy career. I have a lot going on, and I just can't dedicate the time to myself, or I feel selfish for, going to the gym after I get home from work because, my wife has been home all day and my kids need to see me and we're having dinner together. And by the time everything's done, it's 9:30 and I'm tired and need to go to bed, right? And so I want you to just think about that for a second and think about if you were at your best, right? And by your best, meaning if you're fit, right? If you're very fit, you're healthy, you're strong, you feel good about yourself, right? Every part of your life, your relationships with your wife, your kids, your parenting style, your role in your job or as a business owner, it's going to get better. It will get better when all of those things are clicking for you. And the only way to make that happen is by making yourself a priority. It's something that I learned the hard way. I didn't do that for a very long time. When I was married, I was pretty much a martyr. And I I won't even say I did everything, everything for my family and didn't do shit for myself. And I thought, well, that's what I'm supposed to do as a husband and father. But looking back, had I chosen to take better care of my own health and really been consistent with the things that have made me healthier, who knows, how things would have turned out as far as my parenting. I don't think it would have saved our marriage by any means. There were a lot of issues there, but it probably would have improved my life in a number of areas. And I actually have no doubt that it would have, but I didn't. And so what I teach my clients and the men in our community is that make yourself number one. That doesn't mean neglecting your family. Of course not. I would never say that. I mean, my kids are number one, absolutely. Nothing greater. I would love to spend every second I have with them, but I have to carve out just some time, and we don't need a lot of time, but you have to carve out time for yourself and make yourself and your health a priority. Put it on the calendar. Schedule something in your calendar like you normally would schedule anything else, and then stick to it. That's it. Okay. Number 2, you are a procrastinator. This is a big one, right? We always think about, I'll just do it next time, or, I can't wait to get started in the new year, or, I'm not quite ready. I've got a lot of stuff going on at work. I'm going to start in February. We're always going to have excuses, and all of us, including me, are full of shit. It's just another way to put stuff off, and, 1 month turns into 3, turns into 6, turns into 5 years. I've been there. And obviously we know you're never going to get anywhere by doing that. I would suggest, first of all, read a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. I read it a few years ago. Great book, kind of help you prioritize and get moving at least. And I would say, find some motivation or inspiration. Okay. Obviously, inspiration is more powerful than motivation. If you're inspired to do something, right, you're going to find a way to do it. Procrastinating, probably means you don't really have that why, as in why I need to do this. Like most guys don't. Like, well, I'm living my life. I'm doing my thing. I'm making good living. I just don't have time to exercise right now. It'll be fine, right? There's no real why, no sense of purpose behind that. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that's not serving you. And so I would really suggest taking some time by yourself, which is hard to come by, but seriously, no phones, no nothing, and seriously think about the reasons why it's important for you to be in phenomenal health and just feel great all around. Okay, it is there somewhere. Everybody wants that. There isn't a person on earth who doesn't want to look and feel amazing. And then, I would say in the short term, find someone that motivates you and gets you moving. Like for me, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. Man, I love his work. I love listening to him. I've got all of his books. I've read them all. He's just a very motivating guy, and he's an extreme action taker. And so when you're listening to that and you're around that, you start making some changes. Some people love listening to Jocko. Jocko also, he does the work regardless. He's sick. He's tired. It's raining. It's snowing. Whatever. The guy shows up, and I think he posts every day at like 4:30 in the morning. of his workout. He just shows up, right? He's just doing the work. So he doesn't give procrastination any room, and he just does it. And I'm saying, if you just started that way, just one day, then commit to day 2, and then just take it one day at a time, and that's really all you can do, right? And so, I mean, that's where you start, right? Just one day, forget about the future, just take it one day at a time. Number 3, you are a product of your environment. So, when I was married, I didn't spend a lot of time on myself, definitely not on my health. And I just kind of went along with the flow of, life, and we didn't really focus on health. That wasn't really a priority for either one of us. And, I didn't, even though I was still doing some coaching, I wasn't pushing for a big change in our life as far as exercise. And you could say, I kind of dropped to the level of the person I was with as far as attention to health and fitness. And it's easy to become part of your environment. Like if you're in a super negative environment at work, you're going to get sucked down into that level, right? If you're at a house where, let's say your wife is overweight and, either she could care less about getting fit, or it upsets her when you start exercising because then she feels worse about herself, right? Those are tough conversations, and those things you have to handle with your spouse. But a lot of men just don't want to go there, and so they give in and say, well, it's just easier and it'll make her feel better, and I just won't do anything for myself, and that way she won't feel bad when I start getting fit and she's still overweight, right? That's a very common thing. So to kind of break out of that, you have to change your environment. And I'm not saying divorce. I would never want anybody to go through a divorce. But you have to change your environment on some level. And for most guys, that's not going to be getting all new friends or divorcing your wife. It's going to be finding a group of like-minded people, whether it's men or women, whatever works for you, and then surrounding yourself with those people as much as you can. And this is one of the main reasons why we do everything in groups now in the Fit Dad Nation, because of the power of tribe. It's crazy. When you're around a bunch of guys, in our case with dads, you can't help but to feel better because you've got all these men working together, being positive, just doing their best to be better every day. So that's what we've created in our groups, especially the Inner Circle, right? Some of the free groups, not so much, because there's no real investment. Guys give a shit less if they're in part of a free group. They don't really get any value. They're not offering much value. But when you're actually paying for something, right, and you're invested at least somewhat financially in your health, right, you're more apt to take action. I mean, this is just a fact, right? It's just how it is. So, in our paid groups, men are far more active and engaged and kicking ass, which is why I've seen it work tremendously well. So my suggestion to you is to find a tribe of your own. You're certainly welcome to check ours out. Or, there's a million different groups. There's a million different places that you can check. But it's very, very powerful. So, seriously, try to find a tribe for yourself. Number 4, you're not consistent with your eating and or training. So this is one of the biggest ones, is people following a diet or a program, whether it's P90X or a keto diet, whatever it might be, and getting all jacked up about it, right? It's very common. People get super, super pumped up, especially around the new year. Gung-ho, 110%. Then 2 weeks later, they get called away for a business trip, or their kid gets sick, something sidelines them, and they're thrown off, and the consistency goes out the window. So I've been in and out of gyms for like 25 plus years, and I've had a few rough patches of a few years where I haven't really exercised, but for the most part, I've been pretty consistent with training, which is one of the main reasons why it's easier for me to get into shape now than for a lot of people that haven't been consistent over the years. So I've let myself go over, in the past, let's call it 10 years where I've been just soft and mushy, dad bod, no real muscles, just look like a pile of shit. But once I rededicate to eating a good, clean, healthy diet and training my ass off, results come pretty quickly for me. And again, that's only because of the consistency I've had over the years. So if you don't have that, obviously you can't travel back in time to start that. All you can do is start now. So just remember, let's look at this from a long-term perspective. Right? This isn't a short-term game where you're going to try to crush it for the next 3 months and then be done. Like that's stupid. Instead, this is a lifelong journey. It really is, right? If you focus on eating high-quality foods, and I'm not saying that any one style of eating is better than another, carnivore, keto, paleo, vegan, whatever. And I'm not saying that, any one is better than the other, but if you can eat a healthy way, I'd say 80+% of the time, you can still eat the foods that you really love, the other 20%. I live that. I 100% believe it. I've seen it in action. That way you're not giving up all the things that you love, and then you're not sacrificing and you're not miserable and saying, I can never have pizza or I can never have bread again or whatever it is. And some people, they think that, right? Oh my God, if I go on a diet, I can never have bread again. I can't do that. Right? That's ridiculous. So, focus on the 80-20 rule and just be consistent with eating good most of the time. Same with training. Get your ass in the gym 3 to 4 days a week and push yourself every workout, right? You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to spend a ton of time in the gym, especially for our age. I mean, I'm 48. I'll be 49 this year. My workouts between 25 and 40 minutes typically. And I warm up every time. I do some mobility. So you don't need a ton of time. You really don't. But you have to stop quitting. You get frustrated after a month. Oh, my results, they're not coming. I'm doing something wrong. I quit, right? You're not giving it enough time. The shit takes time. So, number 5, you are unknowingly in a calorie surplus. So this is for people, and this is just for people trying to lose weight. Most guys listening to this are trying to lose weight. So if you're in a surplus, you can't lose weight. It's not physically possible. So you don't know this unless what? You know how many calories you're eating. Now, it doesn't make sense to know how many calories you're eating unless you know how many calories you actually need to lose weight. So I've got some calculators and things that I use to kind of figure out a ballpark of, okay, this is roughly what I need to lose weight. Then just suck it up and track them for a while, right? It's not awesome. I don't love tracking calories. It's not fun, but it will give you a great understanding, even though it's not super accurate with food labels and some of the things that are off with like MyFitnessPal, but it's better than nothing, and it'll give you a ballpark idea of roughly how many calories, protein, carbs, fat, all that stuff. So start tracking. So seriously, I've seen this time and time again, right? I just can't lose weight. I'm doing all the things. I'm following what you said. I'm eating all these great foods. I'm training hard. I'm doing everything right, but I'm not losing any weight. And then when you really start tracking foods and looking at the actual calorie count, I find that it's over what they need. And it doesn't matter if it's coming from chicken and rice. It's still too many calories. It doesn't matter the quality. It's the quantity. If you're eating too many calories, you can't lose weight, whether it's Pop-Tarts or broccoli. It doesn't matter. So start tracking calories, and I would tell you to do some research on intermittent fasting. I actually really think it's a phenomenal tool for not just weight loss, but for mindfulness. And so not only will you probably end up eating fewer calories because you've got a shortened window of eating, but you'll just get a better understanding of why you're eating, how much you're eating. And it is a really good way to kind of gauge those things. So take a look at intermittent fasting. We do that in the groups. We've run a couple of challenges in the past that have been super successful. So let's move on. Number 6, you have no plan. So, this is one thing I've seen countless times over the last 22 years as a coach. People just literally winging it. What are you doing today? Oh, I don't know. Okay. Or, oh, I just Googled a workout right before I came here, so I'm going to do that. Like, that shit doesn't work, right? Except for people that are like brand new, like real beginners who you'll see results from pretty much anything. I mean, you can lift pencils for an hour and you're going to see some results. It doesn't work long term. It's just not a good plan. Just, and it does make sense to have a structured program that you follow and you can gauge and see if you're making progress and you're gaining strength and you're moving in the right direction. Those things, it's important. So, we have different programs, with what we do, but there's a million of them. 5x5 strong lifts is super popular. P90X is a program that you can follow all of those beach body things. Doesn't mean there's a million of them out there, but follow something. Find something that you actually like doing. That if you hate it, it's not going to work out. And then, stick to it. Stop winging it. Stop walking into the gym and trying to figure out what you're going to do. Well, that machine's taken, so I'm not going to do legs, I guess, because the squat rack's taken. I guess I'll go walk on the treadmill or run on the treadmill or sit on the elliptical, whatever. All right, that doesn't work. So have a plan. Number 7, you have unrealistic expectations. Real results take time. This is one of my biggest fucking frustrations about this business, right? Real results take time, a lot of time. Unfortunately, we're sold and told that results can be immediate and extraordinary. If we're just willing to pay that $39.99 for that pill or program or gadget, right? That's all bullshit. None of those things work. Unfortunately, they sell, they don't work. I mean, it's never going to end. I mean, it really won't. I mean, they've had these fitness gadgets and promises of 20 pounds in 20 days. It's been there forever. It's going to be there forever because it makes money, because people want quick results, because we're fucking lazy and we want instant results. We don't want to work for it. You cannot have expectations thinking that you're going to get into supermodel shape or super fit shape, six-pack abs or big old arms and back by following some crazy-ass diet or program that's being pitched on late-night television or you see on the bookshelves, right? I've spent, and I'm not jacked, I'm not huge, I'm in good shape, especially for my age. But, it's been a lot of years I put in the time, and that's just what it boils down to, Unfortunately, if you haven't started and you've done nothing, it's going to take time. It may take years, but who cares, right? Think about it. What else are you going to be doing? Nothing. You only have right now and going forward. So forget the past. It doesn't matter. Start right now and just start. Just get after it. And please just realize 90% of the stuff you see on social media, before, afters, The Biggest Loser, all that stuff is just purely marketing, sales driven. It's garbage. Can amazing results happen quickly? Yes, they do in certain circumstances and with certain people that are genetically gifted or whatever, but that's far from the norm. A realistic expectation would be, I'm going to spend the next 1 to 2 years changing my habits, eating really healthy foods, training hard, getting familiar with my body, and then watching it progress from there. That's the best way you can look at it. Okay. Number 8, you have no idea what you're doing. So, unfortunately, this industry is one of the most confusing industries in the world because every quote unquote expert has their own opinion on how best to get fit. One doctor will say the carnivore diet is by far the best way to eat. It's been shown, research, blah, 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 blah. And then the next one says, absolutely not. That's horrible for you. You're going to have, heart disease. The best way to go is plant-based, or, I just saw Game Changers on Netflix and, I'm going plant-based and, there's so many different, and some people are experts, but most are not. They want to confuse you. They want to make you think that you need them because they want to sell you something. That's it. I mean, this fitness industry is based on, it's based on sales more than any other industry that I know of, because it's so emotionally tied to people, right? Our bodies, our feeling of self-worth, right? Marketers know how to prey to those weak spots and write things and say things and, push our buttons just right so we feel the need, like we have to have that, right? And at the end of the day, honestly, you don't need any of it. Getting fit isn't complicated. It's not. It's simple, really. You follow the basics, and I talk about this all the time. Follow the basics of good health and fitness for a very long period of time. You can't go wrong, right? Few basic things, right? And there's nothing to sell with what I'm about to say, so you don't hear about it very often because it doesn't promise you anything. Eat like you give a shit about your body. You know that Chips Ahoy are bad for you. You know that an apple is good for you, right? Use your fucking head. I mean, seriously. I'm not judging you. Maybe I come across like a dick sometimes, but it's so frustrating. And I'm not frustrated with you. I'm frustrated with the industry and the people that are trying to deceive you. It's because I'm so invested in this personally and emotionally in this industry and my business and what I do, that it's very frustrating. It really, really bothers me on a deep personal level, which is why I get so pissed off about when I talk about it. But all right, so anyway, it kind of went off on a tangent here. So eat like you give a shit about your body, right? Train progressively, meaning just train harder than you did the time before. It doesn't have to be by a lot, but you have to continually progress in your training, okay? Prioritize strength training. Extremely important for men. If there's women listening to this, I would say even more important for women, especially if you start getting older. You need that muscle mass. Get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Okay, just don't overlook that. I mean, I just got an email from a guy the other day. Said, "Oh man, I really want to do this challenge, but I'm only getting 3 hours of sleep." I was like, "Dude, you can't do this on 3 hours of sleep. I don't care how great you feel. Your body is not wired that way. So you have to figure out how to get more sleep, right? Get outside, get some fresh air, get some sunshine on your skin, right? Stop stressing out about everything. Stress will make you fat or keep you fat. It will kill you. I've had many, many sleepless nights, especially during and after my divorce, especially, being away from my girls. When we started going through a custody battle in court, I could not sleep, and I was stressed out all the time. I mean, and you can imagine what happened, right? I started eating like shit. I started feeling like shit. My body was falling apart. Stress is a silent killer, seriously. And I would say, on the flip side, find something that makes you happy, right? And again, we're talking about the basics of good health and wellness, okay? Being happier is extremely important to your overall well-being, extremely important. I spent 11 and a half years working in a career that I fucking hated. Sitting at a desk, in a suit, crunching numbers, staring at spreadsheets, working in finance I worked for 4 different brokerage firms over the course of 11 and a half years. And aside from maybe the first 6 months when it was kind of cool and I was studying for my Series 7, I fucking hated it. And so, after my divorce, I decided that I was going to do something that made me feel good about getting up in the morning and actually giving back. And that's what I've been doing. That's why I went into fitness, full time, and ultimately started Fit Dad Nation. And I honestly feel so fortunate. I mean, so fortunate every day. I think about it every day when I wake up and I walk to my basement to go to work instead of driving. Some days, I had one job. I was driving, and I live in the DC area, which is some of the worst traffic in the nation. I would drive 2 hours one way to sit at a fucking desk in a cubicle all day long doing something I just hated, just to turn around and do it, come all the way back in another 2 hours. It was miserable. I did it for years. So find something that makes you happy, seriously. And if you can, this is something I've spoken about in different episodes, but do what you love. I mean, I would trade in a huge paycheck for doing something I love every day of the week for sure. And, there's no reason you can't have both. No reason you can't make a ton of money doing what you love. As Gary Vaynerchuk says, you can monetize anything. Any passion you have, anything really, you can figure out a way to make money at it. And I 100% believe that. So, moving on here. Number 9. You don't believe that you can actually make progress and have the body that you want. Right? I mean, this is a very real thing, and so many people have tried like diet after diet or program after program, and you hope it's the one that works for you. And it's not, right? Yo-yo dieting, multiple failed attempts. Those things have taught you that you can't win, that you can't have the body you want, right? But honestly, it's bullshit. Okay, and again, and I don't want to beat this too badly, but it's the fitness marketers out there that are pushing the shit on us, that are pushing these programs and things that don't work, right? Like when the keto got hot again, which was I don't know how long ago, a couple years ago, it got super hot, right? Everyone jumped on the keto bandwagon, and the vast majority, I don't have any numbers or anything, but just from my experience and talking to people and reading about it, the vast majority failed miserably because it just wasn't sustainable, right? I mean, you can't go from eating the typical American diet, which is 40, 50, 60% carbohydrates, to eating virtually none, right? That's not going to work, right? Does it work? Yeah. People have lost tons of weight. People have sustained it. But those are the people that have, been able to prepare themselves mentally. They've accepted the fact that they're not going to be eating those carbs anymore, and they've figured out ways to make it successful for themselves. That's very, very few, and there's a million other things like that. And so if you've been struggling, and a lot of guys listening to this were, in their heyday back in college, and then, after college got a job, got married, kids, and, over the course of the last, let's call it 20 years, you've just steadily put on fat, weight around your midsection, your back, right? I mean, it's just very, very common in 40 to 45-year-old guys to have 30, 40 extra pounds at least of fat just from, all of the things we've already talked about today, right? But, the things that you've tried over the years, whether it's been because you've been consistent, it's been a piece of shit program, it's been some kind of fad diet, whatever it is, has taught you that you can't do it. And all I'm going to say is, I've seen incredible transformations, and I shared a picture recently of myself over the course of 10 years at 35 and 45. I shared it on social, and got actually quite a bit of attention. And it wasn't like, oh my God, you're like this Greek god versus this fat slob. No, I was a thin guy. I always have been. I just had a dad bod. I had no real muscles. It just looked sloppy. And then 10 years later, I was pretty lean and fit and muscular. Nothing spectacular. But it was a pretty big transformation. And it just comes down to, like I've talked about earlier, it's consistency. And so I just want you to believe that you can do it. Plenty of people, millions of men have made transformations. Just stop worrying about, is it enough? How fast can I do it? Do I need to take all of these supplements? Just like I said a few minutes ago, focus on those things like eating like you give a shit, training progressively, prioritize your strength training, right? Get your sleep, get outside, stress less, do what you love. Like, those are the things, and if you follow those things, you can do it, right? But you got to get out of that negative cycle, that negative mindset, because it's just going to keep you there. I mean, it's just going to keep you there, and you're going to be fucked. Seriously. So, last one is, this one's a little bit deep, but I will say, and this is a very real thing too, is self-sabotage. You're self-sabotaging your own success. This is a little bit different than the not believing you can do it. This is actually where you're subconsciously fucking yourself by doing things that again, subconsciously are going to hinder or stop your progress, right? And at the base of a lot of that, at the core of a lot of this is a fear of success, which sounds crazy. This is actually a big topic. It's not a fear of failure necessarily, because we've already learned how to fail many times, right? We become comfortable with failure. It becomes the norm, right? There's no real, there's nothing on the line if we just continue to fail. If we succeed, right, then we're held to a higher standard, right? If we get fit and healthy, people are going to start looking at us like, hey, what did this person do? We're going to be held to a higher standard. And some people don't like that, right? That's very difficult for us, And I will say that a lot of people, have real emotional ties to food, like the feelings of comfort. People use it as an escape, right? And you think, well, if I succeed and I do this, I won't be able to have those things. I won't be able to have those feelings of comfort, and that scares people. And again, a lot of these things are seriously at the subconscious level. When you think about it, though, and you talk about it, it starts to make sense. But you might not even know that you have an emotional tie to certain foods. I mean, for me, my energy drink habit, which was out of control, I had a 2-a-day Red Bull habit for a decade at least. And then now, I've been really hooked on Monster energy drinks, the Monster Zeros. That was tied to a feeling of, and this is only after I thought about it, was the only real happiness I got out of my day for years. When I was at my old job for 11 years, the only time that I was actually happy was that first thing in the morning, I would walk into the office and I would have an ice cold Red Bull and whatever, like a bagel or something. But that first 3 or 4 sips of that Red Bull was like ecstasy. It made my day. And so I associate that, and still to this day, and this has been years, well over a decade now. When I get up in the morning, that's my first thing. I brush my teeth, make my bed, I go downstairs, and I open up a Monster Zero. I drink the orange ones. And it's that feeling. It's like this totally emotional, and some of you guys know what I'm talking about, whether it's coffee or whatever you drink. It's like a little bit of a high, and the caffeine doesn't do anything for me anymore because I'm so used to all the stimulants from taking pre-workouts and energy drinks over the years. But yeah, it's crazy. So that, is my emotional tie there. And if I say, well, I'm just never going to have that again, right? What is that going to do to my psyche, right? That's going to mess with my head. So same thing for you, right? So, people will think, well, if I get into the shape that I want, right, now I've got to stay here. So I spent all this time, energy, hired a coach, finally I feel awesome about myself, but guess what? Now I have to stay here. And that's going to require even more work to do that. And if I don't, if I fail, if I regress, if something throws me off track, if I revert, if I start eating all those crappy foods again, I'll end up right back where I started, and I'll feel like an even bigger failure. Right? So these are conversations happening in your head that you may or may not be aware of. Okay, this is something that you probably should. I'm not an expert in psychology or anything like that, but this is something that you should take a look at, because this is a real thing. It's a lot more kind of out there than the other ones I mentioned, but something that's also very real, and that this parlays into every part of your life. Like if you have a fear of success, you could be holding yourself back in business or your marriage or whatever. This is real shit. So do some research on this. Anyway, so those are my 10 things that I really want to talk about. And I will say that if you want to kind of take your self-sabotage and kind of take a checklist of the things and that may or may not be holding you back, I would say take a piece of paper and write out all your fears, all the things that are going on in your head, like I just mentioned, right? Like, fuck, I don't want to spend 2 hours in the gym. I don't have that kind of time, or I'm worried that I'll never be able to eat all my favorite foods again, and I'll feel like I'm sacrificing all the things that I love just for the name of fitness, and I don't want to do that, right? Those are things that will hold you back from moving forward. So write those things down, right? Like, I don't want to spend 2 hours in the gym every day. Well, let's look at that and say, well, you don't have to, right? Like, it's not a rational thing. Like, you don't have to spend 2 hours in the gym. You can spend 30 minutes. That's plenty. Can you find 30 minutes? Yes. Okay, I'm worried that I'll never be able to eat my favorite foods again, right? That I'm sacrificing all the time, right? Well, let's take a look at that. Well, what kind of diet do you want? If you're going on an extreme hardcore diet, which is not healthy or sustainable, then yeah, you're going to struggle. But if you take a realistic approach to eating, regardless of the style, whether it's paleo or whatever, you can realize that you can eat. There are no foods that are off limits. If you're eating really well, the vast majority of the time, you can still enjoy every single thing on earth. I don't care if it's cheesecake or whatever, you can still have it. Okay? Right? If you think that it's not possible for you to ever get into shape, which I've heard a million times, there's no way. I've tried everything. It's not possible. Why bother trying? Right? Well, look at that and say, why have I failed? Let's look at exactly what you've tried. Why have you failed? What can you try differently? Right? So that's one way to look at it. So anyway, I hope this helps, guys. I really do. I'm really hoping for a phenomenal 2020 for all you guys listening. And again, please, if you need help, whether you join our programs or groups or not, of course, I would love to have you as part of the Inner Circle or one of our free groups. That's fine. But as long as you're making progress and you're happy and you're moving towards your goals and making physical and mental progress, I'm happy. So if you have any questions about anything, you ever want to chat, get some advice, some guidance, help you get started, I'm always here, steve@fitdadnation.com. You can always find me on social media at the Fit Dad Nation. Anyway, guys, looking forward to a phenomenal 2020. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, if you want more information, check out the Fit Dad Basecamp group on Facebook. And don't forget to stop by fitdadnation.com. Until next time, keep kicking ass and taking the next step. You can do this, Dad.